We continue our Flutter for Beginners series, working through the code labs. We've gone through the first three. Now we're going to examine the web page, building beautiful UIs with Flutter. It takes a deeper dive. In the introduction, of course, it describes what we're going to do. We're going to create a very simple chat application. It describes the environment we can set up. We've already done this, of course, in previous videos. We've actually switched to the release channel beta, giving us the option for web support. On the next page, they look to the test drive web page for an example. It uses the generated app when you create a new Flutter project, the counter app. So we won't do that. We simply have ourselves we'll make our own file. So we'll just and build the main interface. In this section, we begin modifying the default sample app to make it a chat app. The goal is to use Flutter to build friendly chat, a simple extendable chat app with these features. The app displays text messages in real time. Users can enter a text string message and send it either by pressing the return key or the send button. The UI runs on Android and iOS devices as well as the web. And now in this code lab, they have us try doing it in the Dart pad. We'll do this in Android Studio. Create the main app scaffold. The first element you add is a simple app bar. It shows a static title for the app. As you progress through the subsequent sections of this code lab, you increasingly add more responsive and useful UI elements to the app. The main Dart file is located in the lib directory of your Flutter project and contains the main function that starts the execution of your app. So we would replace the counter app with this code here. Just grab it, copy it. I'm going to put it in a blank Dart file. Paste it in like that. I'll bring up the emulator and we'll run that shortly. Let's continue. Any Dart program, whether it's a command line app, an Angular Dart app, or a Flutter app, starts with a main function. The main and run app function definitions are the same as the automatically generated app, the counter app we're talking about. The run app function takes its argument, a widget, which the Flutter framework expands and displays in the screen at runtime. This chat app uses material design elements in the UI, so a material app object is created, passed to the run app function. The material app widget becomes the root of your app's widget tree. The home argument specifies the default screen that the user sees in your app. In this case, it consists of a scaffold widget that has a simple app bar as its child widget. This is typical of a material app. Okay, so let's just go here. Let's go and run it. What is hot reload, hot restart, and full restart? Hot reload loads code changes into the virtual machine, and reloads the widget tree, preserving the app state. It doesn't rerun main or init state. Hot restart loads code changes into the VM and restarts the Flutter app, losing the app state, while a full restart restarts the Android, iOS, and web app. This takes longer because it also recompiles the code. On the web, a full restart also restarts the Dart development compiler. There is no keyboard shortcut for this. must stop and start the run configuration. There's our friendly chat. Okay. And they convey it here, both Android and iOS. Build the chat screen. To lay the groundwork for interactive components, you break the simple app down into two different subclasses of a widget. A root-level friendly chat app widget that never changes, and a child chat screen widget that rebuilds when the messages are sent and internal state changes. For now, both of these classes can extend stateless widget. Later, you will modify chat screen to be a stateful widget. That way, you can change its state as needed. So let's create the friendly chat widget. Inside main, place the cursor in front of the M for material app, right-click, and select Refactor, Extract, Flutter widget. Enter friendly chat app into the extract window dialog and click the Refactor button. The material app code is placed in a new stateless widget called friendly chat app, and main is updated to call that class when it calls the run app function. Okay, select the block of text after home, start with scaffold and end with a scaffold parentheses, but do not include the ending comma. Start typing chat screen and select chat screen. Okay. We're going to do this. I'm going to start a follow along here. Right off the hop, however, I'm just going to show this how the compiler does this. Just start typing those words and it gives you the option. You have the means now to just create a stateless widget. Like so. Produces the boilerplate. There's that chat screen. Now what they're doing here, they want to take it out of run because if you recall, doing a hot reload, main isn't run. We run it again and again. It's and the init state of this of a state object isn't run again. So we want to get this out of there so we can actually do hot reloads repeatedly. So he said the documentation has us highlighted, refactor, extract Flutter widget, give it the name friendly chat app. Look at that. It's out of there. Produce this call, and it created this stateless widget. Now this being a single function, single line for a function, we can use the arrow notation here. That'd be perfectly fine. I'm going to right click, format. Now because that comma is there, take that out, format again, produces one line. Still further, they wanted us to highlight this and start typing. No, let's see, here we go. This, grab, but don't include the colon. Start typing in this case, chat screen. It knows of the definition chat screen right there. So we're just going to move things over. Scaffold. And in scaffold there's an app bar. So I define the app bar. I know there's a title. Define the title, and they want us to use a text widget. We'll just simply call it friendly chat. Right click, reformat, and there we are. So let's go back here. Be specific. It wants us to no spaces. Fair enough. So update the screen chat widget. Inside the screen chat widget, select container and start typing scaffold. Select scaffold from the pop-up. Yep. The cursor should be positioned inside the parentheses. Return enter to start a new line. Start typing app bar. Select app bar. Then I typed in the app bar class, the app bar widget. And then in turn, put in the title with its text widget. Dart supports single or double quotation marks, but prefers single quotation marks unless the text already contains a single quotation mark. That's interesting. I prefer using double quotes because then I don't have to be concerned if the text inside has apostrophe S or what have you. But single quotes it is. The comma tells the formatter where to break the lines. Including a comma at the end of a line tells the formatter to nest that section. Try adding and removing commas and then right-click on the code pane. Select Reformat with Dart Form from the pop-up and see how it works. Again, that was what I showed earlier. Changing these, taking these out would actually move this parentheses up. Putting commas on the end provides you with some better readability. If at any point you see a red screen after a hot reload, try a hot restart. If that doesn't fix the problem, then stop the app and perform a full restart. Hot reload changes the state of existing widgets. The red screen can happen, for example, if you delete a widget before a hot reload. The app can fail when the framework tries to update those older widgets. They always give you examples at the end of every page, so you can keep up with the exercise. That's exactly what we got. Mind you now, he didn't put a comma there like I did. Hence, we're not exactly alike. There we are. Particular. Now, add a UI for composing messages. In this section, you'll learn how to build a new controller that enables the user to enter and send chat messages. There it is there. It's going to be a text field, and then an icon, the send icon. On a device, clicking the text field brings up a soft keyboard. Users can send chat messages by typing a non-empty string and pressing the return key on the soft keyboard. Alternatively, users can send their typed messages by pressing the graphic Send button next to the input. For now, the UI is composing messages is at the top of the chat screen, but after you add the UI for displaying messages in the next step, you'll move it to the bottom of the chat screen. Add the interactive text input field. Flutter framework provides a material design widget called text field. It's a stateful widget, a widget that has mutable state. For properties for customizing the behavior of the input. State is information that can be read synchronously when the widget is built and might change during the lifetime of the widget. Adding the first stateful widget to the friendly chat app requires making a few modifications. Okay, so we're changing that chat screen class, which is a stateless widget, into a stateful one. So you select the chat screen in the line class chat screen extend stateful widget. In our case, we're using Windows, so we'll press Alt-Enter to bring up a menu. And from that menu, select Convert to Stateful Widget. The class is automatically updated with the boilerplate code for a stateful widget, including a new chat screen state class for managing state, so the companion class. Prefixing the identifier with an underscore makes the identifier private to its library. A Dart library bundles a set of classes, constants, functions, typedefs, properties, exceptions into one package. High-level variables, high-level methods. The Dart compiler enforces privacy. For more information, see Libraries and Visibility, dart.dev. Okay, let's get ahead of ourselves. Try this. Alt-Enter. Perfect. Look at that. Done. Now it's suddenly a stateful widget with its companion class, chat screen state. Now I traditionally like to returning the state type. The framework doesn't care which particular type of state object, just as long as it's a state object. Okay. To manage interactions with the text field, you use a text editing controller object for reading the contents of the input field and for clearing the field after the chat message is sent. So we add the following line to the chat screen state class. Do that. There we are. It's not currently being used, so it's disabled. It can be useful to view the source code definitions of Flutter's framework APIs to get a better understanding of what's going on behind the scenes. Yes, and we do that all the time. We right-click and select Go To Declarations from the menu. We'll be doing that time and time again with all our videos. Now that you have an app that has the ability to manage state, you can build out the chat screen state class, forgot it's underscore, with an input field and a send button. Add a build text composer function to the state object. Okay, let's do that. Here's the state object, state class as they call it. Put that in there. Currently not being used. It's complaining about undefined method. In Flutter, stateful data for a widget is encapsulated with a state object. The state object is then associated with a widget that extends the stateful widget class. Indeed it does. Here is state object. It's assigned or it knows the definition of it's a companion class, stateful widget class. In fact, if we go to that declaration, discover it's an abstract because we have to build the build method, its build method. It's a class that can be of any type, but that type has to extend stateful widget. Okay. The code above defines a private method called build text composer that returns a container widget that with a configured text field widget. The container widget adds a horizontal margin between the edge of the screen and each side of the input field. The units passed to edge insets symmetry are logical pixels that get translated into a specific number of physical pixels, depending on the device pixel ratio. You might be familiar with the equivalent term for Android, density independent pixels, or for iOS, points. The onSubmitted property provides a private callback method, handle submitted. At first, this method just clears the field, but later you extend it to send the chat message. The text field with the text editing controller gives you control over the text field. This controller will clear the field and read its value. Add the handle submitted function to the state object for clearing the text controller. Simple enough. That. Put that also in the state object. Put it at the bottom. Now there's no complaint. It's right there. We can see that this is waiting for it accepts function that returns a void, in other words returns nothing, and accepts string. Go here, see here, value changed, accepts a type string. This type def is exactly that, a function of any type, returning of any type parameter, which in this case is string. Okay. Back here. Add a text composer widget. Update the build method for the chat screen state. After the app bar line, add a body property. Okay, that's part of scaffold, which is part of the material library design language. So let's go back here, go to scaffold, here it is, and we're going to put it right there. Excellent. Save that. Now continue on. The build text composer method returns a widget that encapsulates the text input. Adding build text composer to the body property causes the app to display the text input user control. Hot reload the app and you should see a screen that looks like this. Well, I've done that. Passed, and that doesn't work. I just rerun it. See what happens. Add a responsive send button. Next, you add a send button to the right of the text field. This involves adding a bit more structure to the layout. The text field composer function wrap the text field inside a row. Select text field in the build text composer. Press Alt-Enter to bring up a menu and select Wrap with Widget. A new widget is added that wraps the text field. The placeholder name is selected, and the IDE waits for you to enter a new placeholder name. Start typing row and select row from the list that appears. Pop-up appears containing the definition of the row constructor. The children property has a red border, and the analyzer tells you that you're missing the required children property. Okay, I get what's going on here. So, go down here to the text field, Alt-Enter, wrap with widget, row. This is not the right children, that's the proper name parameter. We're going to put a bracket right there and another one right there, and that's good. Now row takes a list of widgets. Right click and it looks good. If we looked at that name parameter, let's take a look at it. See, again, it accepts a list of any sort of widget. So we did that. Children probably takes a list rather than a single widget. Right now there's only one item in the list. We'll add another soon. Convert the widget to a list of one. Right. The editor also provides the closing right bracket. Deleting the closing right bracket several lines down just before the right parentheses that closes the row, type the right bracket followed by a comma. The analyzer should show a green check mark. And it does. They want me to put a bracket, put a comma behind this bracket. Okay. Okay, further still, they want me to change. Select row. Okay, wrap the text field now with a widget called flexible. We're familiar with that from a previous video. Grab that, Alt Enter, flexible. And we got the same thing now. Wrapping a text field in a flexible widget tells the row to automatically size the text field to use the remaining space that isn't used by the button. Right. Add a comma right after the right bracket tells the formatter how to format the code. Next, you add the send button. This is a material app, so use the corresponding material icon. A list of standard material design icons. See the material icon site in the constants icons class. Send button becomes the second item in the row's text. Send button becomes the second item in the row's list. Position the cursor at the end of the flexible widget's closing right bracket and comma and press return to start a new line. Start typing container and select the container from the pop-up. The cursor is positioned inside the container's parentheses. Press return for to start a new line and add the following lines. Okay. Grab this, copy. So after flexible, start typing container. I'm going to put a comma. I suppose I should have hit enter there. And that's it. Done. So the container has put some margin horizontally, so there's a margin beside the send, which is also beside the text field, and there's the icon's a certain size, and then the text field with the flexible takes up the remaining space. If I save that, and there it is. So all the space here for 4 pixels are there, and then the rest is the field for logical pixels. Observation. The icon button displays the send button. The icon property specifies the icon send constant. The material library to create a new icon instance. Placing the icon button inside the container widget lets you customize the margin spacing of the button so that it visually fits better next to your input field. The onPressed property uses an anonymous function to invoke the handle submitted method and passes the contents of the message with the text controller. In Dart, the arrow syntax sometimes used in declaring functions. This is shorthand for the return statement and is only used for one-line functions. For an overview of Dart function support, including anonymous and nested functions, see the Dart language tour. The color of the button is black, which comes from the default material design theme. To give the icons in your app an accent color, pass the color argument to icon button, or apply a different theme. Yes, and this goes on to describing how to apply a different theme. And that would mean this is demonstrating how you would use certain widgets, how they would utilize the widget tree. And this icon will take on the color defined by this theme way up here in the widget tree. Since this is the parent of this child, deep inside this widget tree, this utilizes the widget tree to pass down attributes, in this case, a color. What we'll do though, shorthand approach, we'll simply apply that to, we can't apply it to the icon itself, although it does have color name parameter. Put it to the icon button, because right now, as it is, in my case, I don't have it there. If I took this out and went like this, color, that would work. But they have a constant here. That means this is not conceived at compile time, it's at runtime, so that won't work. And it's best to have it as a constant anyway. It's a constant value. Helps performance just that much more. But this button here also has the parameter color, and you can pass it to. Passing that theme, that accent color, to this parent will convey that same color to this child widget. So we'll do that. Save. And now that should be blue. The same color as the app bar. Okay. Let's continue here. Okay. Observation. Icons inherit their color opacity and size from the icon theme widget, which uses the icon theme data object to define these characteristics. Right. The icon theme's data property specifies the theme data object for the current theme. This gives the button and any other icons in this part of the widget tree the accent color of the current theme. A build context object is a handle to the location of a widget in its app's widget tree. Each widget has its own build context, which becomes the parent of the widget returned by the stateless widget build or the state build function. This means that the build text composer has access to the build context object from its encapsulating state object. You don't need to pass the contents to the method explicitly. We didn't pass it explicitly, we passed it with the of. We went through the tree. Build context. Right, so I didn't pass this explicitly there. It's there. And that is in the state object. The state object has this getter called context. And since this method is inside the state class, it has ready access to that getter. Okay. Debug. This is describing how we use the debug in Android Studio and other IDEs. I'll be demonstrating that through past and future videos, so we'll continue. Add UI for displaying messages. The basic app scaffolding and screen in place. Now you're ready to define the area where the chat messages are displayed. Implement a chat message list. In this section, you create a widget that displays chat messages using composition, creating and combining multiple smaller widgets. You start with a widget that represents a single chat message. Then you nest the widget in a parent scrollable list. Finally, you nest the scrollable list in the basic app scaffold. Add the chat message stateless widget. Position the cursor after the friendly chat app class and start to type stateless. The order in which the class is doesn't matter, but this order makes it easier to compare your code to the solution. Enter chat message for the class name. Add a row to the build method. Chat message. Position the cursor behind the parentheses of the return container. Press enter to start a new line. And add a margin property. The container child will be a row. The rows list contains two widgets, an avatar and a column of text. Well, here it is all here, so we'll just grab this sheet a little, copy it, go back after this class, type in chat message, and then within this build function, paste in what we have here. There we are. Save that. And okay, everything's okay. Add text variable. Add a text variable and a constructor to the top of the chat message. Okay, we'll do that. So, final. Because that's final, could this not be const? Like the so? There's nothing in there. Do that. At this point, the analyzer should only complain about name being undefined. You fix that next. Define the name variable as shown, replacing your name with your own name. Use the variable to label each chat message with the sender's name. In this code lab, you hardcode the value for simplicity, but most apps retrieve the sender's name through authentication. After the main function, add the following line. Oh, after the main function, so we're adding a high-level variable right here. And of course, back down here now, it's not complaining. At one time it was, that was underlined in red. The build method for the chat message returns a row that displays a simple graphical avatar to represent the user who sent the chat message, a column widget containing the sender's name and the text of the message. Circular avatar is personalized by labeling it with the user's first initial by passing the first character of the name variable value to a child text widget. So, exactly, the first character, like most things, high-level languages, lists and arrays begin with 0. So here we are. So that's my first initial. And then there's the column that contains my name with a specific style. And then after that, margin, and then the text itself, all in text widgets. Okay. The cross-axis alignment parameter specifies cross-axis alignment start in the row constructor to position the avatar and the message relative to their parent widgets. For the avatar, the parent is a row widget whose main axis is horizontal, so cross-axis alignment start gives it the highest position along the vertical axis. For messages, the parent is a column widget whose main axis is vertical, and so the cross-axis alignment start aligns the text at the furthest left position along the horizontal axis. Next to the avatar, 2 text widgets are vertically aligned to display the sender's name on top and the text of the message below. The theme text provides the default Flutter theme data object for the app. In a later step, you override the default theme to style your app differently for Android and iOS. Theme data's text theme property gives you access to the material design logical styles for text like headline 4, so you can avoid hard-coding font sizes and other text attributes. In this example, the sender's name is styled to make it larger than the message text. Okay. Type messages into the text field. Press the send key to clear the message. Type a long message into the text field to see what happens when the text field overflows. Later, in step 9, you wrap the column in an expanded widget to make the text widget wrap. Implement a chat message list in the UI. The next refinement is to get the list of chat messages and show it in the UI. You want this list to be scrollable so that the user can view the message history. The list should also present the message in chronological order, with the most recent message displayed at the bottommost row of the visible list. Okay, add a message list into the chat's screen state. So the chat screen state definition, add a list member called messages to represent each message. Chat. Okay, that's new. 2 is final. Copy. There we go. Slap it in there. Currently not being used. When the user sends a chat message from the text field, the app should add the new message to the message list. Modify the handle submitted method to implement this behavior. Okay. Let's just grab everything here. Copy. Handle submitted method. Include now. So text comes in. This chat message object is created. And then it's inserted into the list. And as you can see, it's inserted in the setState function, which will then call the accompanying the associated state objects build method shortly thereafter. Imagine it talks about that. Okay, put focus back on the text field after content submission. Okay, find that. Copy. Add that there. Now we're going to probably... Okay, put that in the text field. Where's the composer? There it is. So put that in there. Excellent. Request focused. So in the handle, when you submit it, move your eye cursor back into the text field. Okay, so getting all that done here. Let's see what this does. Each item in the list is a chat message instance. The list is initialized to be empty. Calling setState to modify messages lets the framework know that this is part of the widget tree changed. Now this part of the widget tree changed, and it needs to rebuild the UI. Only synchronous operations should be performed in setState because otherwise the framework could rebuild the widgets before the operation finishes. So that's why the setState always checks for returning a future object. In general, it is possible to call setState with an empty closure after some private data changed outside this method call. However, updating data inside the setState's closure is preferred, so you don't forget to call it afterwards. Again. So you don't generate a future object, really. Because quite frankly, this is just as useful. This is the equivalent. Change an item and then notify the framework of that change. setState call. See that? That's just as fine. So, in fact, you'll see that a lot. An empty closure in the framework itself at times, and in many packages. Place the message list. You're now ready to display the list of chat messages. Get the chat message widget from the message list and put them in a list view widget for a scrollable list. In the build method of the chat screen state, add a list view inside a column. Okay, so it's just the whole column. Be safe and just grab the whole thing. whole thing's right down here. Copy that. Go to the chat screen state. Build. There it is. Paste. Now, of course, you know what that means. I could have just done this. For this build, we could use the arrow notation just as fine, because it's just one whole widget. Just like that. The list view builder factory method builds a list on demand by providing a function that is called once per item in the list. The function returns a new widget at each call. The builder also automatically detects mutations of its children parameter and initiates a rebuild. The parameters passed to the list view builder constructor customizes the list contents and appearance. Padding creates white space around the message text. Item count specifies the number of messages in the list. Item builder provides the function that builds each widget in index. Because you don't need the current build context, you can ignore the first argument of build widget builder. Okay, so the first argument is a build context object. Naming the argument with an underscore and nothing else is a convention indicating the argument won't be used. Right, you'll see that also in the framework and in packages. That tells you that this argument's there, it's acknowledged, but it's not being used at all. It's ignored. So in this item name parameter, this index widget builder type, it's a function, it returns a widget that has the context parameter as well as the index parameter of integer. In fact, you don't even need that integer there. It knows that this is going to be an integer by inference. Okay. The body property of the scaffold widget now contains a list of incoming messages as well as the input field in send button. The layout uses the following widgets. Column lays out the direct children vertically. The column widget takes a list of children widgets, same as row, and becomes a scrolling list and a row for an input field. Flexible is a parent of list view, tells the framework to let the list of receiving messages expand to fill the column height, while text field remains a fixed size. Divider draws a horizontal line between the UI for displaying messages and the text input field for composing messages. Container is a parent of the text composer, defines background images, padding, margins, and other common layout details. Decoration creates a new box decoration object that defines the background color. In this case, you're using the card color defined by the theme data object for the default theme. This gives the UI for composing messages a different background from the message list. Let's take a look at that. Okay, so there it is, right there. That decoration, and so the background for the input field is going to be this color. And you can't readily discern it, but yeah, it's a little lighter than the rest, and you can barely see the divider. But as you know, as you can tell now, it's at the bottom, only because it's the second entry in the column. And this will contain the messages. Sending a few chat messages using the UIs for composing and displaying that you just built. Okay, let's do that. All right. So let's try it. Look at that, eh? If I hit enter. Oh yes, your name, my first message. Avatar takes the first character, puts it in there. Exactly, perfect. I just hit the enter key in this case. So, text composer widget has a container, has a text field in there. On submitted, we'll pass it to the handle submitted method. Pressing the send button, the little icon, passes it again to that method. Takes in a text field, a string in other words, clears the string, clears that field, it's gone. But then after that, it notifies that there's a change to the message list. Message list is displayed here, so it's built here. Each item is displayed right in here. Reverse. If I set that to false, it'll go in the other direction. So right now it's down here. If I save this, it'll move up there. Right. Okay. Step 8. You can add animation to your widget to make the user experience of your app more fluid and intuitive. In this section, you'll learn how to add a basic animation effect to your chat message list. When the user sends a new chat message, instead of simply displaying it in the message list, you animate the message to vertically ease up from the bottom of the screen. Animations in Flutter are encapsulated by animation objects that contain a type value and a status, such as forward, reverse, completed, and dismissed. You can attach an animated object to a widget or listen for changes to the animation. Based on the changes to the animation object's properties, the framework can modify the way your widget appears and rebuild the widget. Specify an animation controller. Using the animation controller class to specify how the animation should run. The animation controller lets you define important characteristics of the animation, such as the duration and playback direction, forward, reverse. Update the chat screen state class definition to include the ticket provider state mixin. Okay, put that in there. Let's do that. So put that there. Okay. So we're adding some new functionality suddenly to this state class. In the chat message class definition, add a variable to store the animation controller. Okay. Oh, yeah. I'm gonna remove that now because it's not final anymore, is it? Let's see here. Add the animation controller to the handle submitted method. Okay, I'm just going to update the whole method. Oh. I put that here too. Forgot to put that in there. So it does work. Alright. Now it makes sense. In fact, yes. Excellent. Now why is that? It shouldn't be a capital D, by the way. It's a little typo on their part. Alright. Observations. The animation controller specifies the animation runtime duration to be 700 milliseconds. This longer duration shows the animation effect so you can see the transition happen more gradually. In practice, you probably want to set a shorter duration when running your app. The animation controller is attached to a new chat message instance. It specifies that the animation should play forward whenever a message is added to the chat list. When creating an animation controller, you must pass it a vsync argument. The vsync argument is the source of the heartbeats ticker that drives the animation forward. Okay, so we're going to probably pass that state up. This example uses the chat screen state as the vsync, so it adds a ticker provider state mixin to the chat screen state class definition. In Dart, a mixin allows a class body to be reused in multiple class hierarchies. For more information, adding features to a class mixins, a section in the Dart language tour. Okay, add a size transition widget. Adding a size transition widget to the animation has the effect of animating a clip rec that increasingly exposes the text as it slides in. Add a size transition widget to the build method in chat message. In the build method of the chat message, select the first container instance, Alt-Enter, and select Wrap with Widget. Enter size transition, a red box. Let's see. I'm going to just do this. Grab that. Go like that. Copy that. Okay. Go here to the build. Go like this. Paste. Right. Add it. Right there. Perfect. You can reformat. So now it's wrapped with the widget size transition. The curved animation object in conjunction with the size transition class produces an ease out animation effect. The ease out effect causes the message to slide up quickly at the beginning of the animation and slow down until it comes to a stop. The size transition widget behaves as an animating clip rect. It exposes more of the text as it slides in. If you hot reload your app now, you may see a red screen. Why? Hot reload preserves the state of your app. In this case, that means that you're already adding in each. Oh, but I don't have any messages. Oh, yes, I do. So let's see. Oh, yeah. Okay. So those messages are out there, but they have to be animated, and they're not. So it says here, yeah, that means that if you've already added any chat messages to the message list, that list is preserved. When Hot Reload attempts to update the app, it doesn't retroactively add the animation controller to the previous list items, so it crashes. Alright. It's good practice to dispose your animation controllers to free up your resources when they are no longer needed. Okay, let's add that. state object. Okay, is that right there? It's overridden. It's part of the framework. Oh, interesting. So now that we've added on this mixin, we've adapted to take on this mixin's methods. So here's the mixin. It has a create ticker, and also we utilize its dispose. Okay, let's go. Alright, let's start that up again. The code is now correct, but not well formatted. Right click on the code pane and select format code. Yeah, okay. Hot reload the app. If you want to experiment further with animations, try a few things. Speed up or slow down the animation by modifying the duration value specified in the handle submitted method. Specify different animation curves by using the constants defined in the curves class. Create a fade-in animation effect by wrapping the container in a fade-in widget instead of a size transition, fade transition. Alright. I saved that to one side at one point. I want to try that. For now, let's try this. Let's see how it looks. Hell yeah. Yeah. Comes up slowly. I like it. Transition. Okay, we'll do that another time. Applying finishing touches. In this optional step, you give your app a few sophisticated details, like making the send button enabled only when there's text to send, wrapping longer messages, and adding native-looking customization for Android and for iOS. Make the send button context-aware. Currently, the send button appears enabled, even when there's no text in the input field. You might want the button's appearance to change depending on whether the field contains text to send. Okay, so later define is composing a private variable that is true whenever the user types in the input field. See where this is going, the unchanged callback method. Okay, copy that. The state, put in yet another property. Right. The build context method, add the unchanged property to the text field and update the submitted property. Okay. Oh, I see, yeah. Unchange is put in there. Okay. Do that. So when it changes, anytime text is entered, this thing is called, this callback function. And if the length is greater than 0, in other words there's text in there, that's set to true. And if it's true, you submit it. But sending null to unsubmitted disables this text field. No, this text button is disabled. On pressed, set to null. Yes, that's right. Okay, leave that, but all right. So that's a container. Okay, got it. So now when that passes null, this button is disabled. So when the handle's set, oh yeah, that's, gotta change that too. So when sent, it should be disabled. You don't need, you can just put that all both in one. In fact, quite frankly, again, you don't need either of them. Like so. Put them there, put it there, get rid of that statement and leave that other one. That should work. This we'll call the build. Okay, currently it's disabled. And this is a test. There we go. Observations. The onChange callback notifies the text field that the user edited its text. Text field calls this method whenever its value changes from the current value of the field. The onChange callback calls setState to change the value of isComposing to true when the field contains some text. It calls setState to rebuild the interface because the instant variable isComposing has changed its value. The state has changed. SetState reflects that change. When isComposing is false, the onPressed property is set to null. The onSubmitted property was also modified so that it won't add an empty string to the message list. Exactly. So pressing enter will not invoke the callback, will actually return null, and nothing will be submitted. The isComposing variable now controls the behavior and the visual appearance of the send button. If the user types a string in the text field, then isComposing is true, and the button's color is set to accent color. When the user presses the send button, the framework invokes handled submitted. If the user types nothing in the text field, then isComposing is false, and the widget's onPressed property is set to null, disabling the send button. The framework automatically changes the button's color to disabled color. Okay, let's try that out. So, brings it up beautifully. In fact, just hit that. Hit send. Sends it. Disables. Perfect. Wrap long lines. When the user sends a chat message that exceeds the width of the UI for displaying messages, the lines should wrap so the entire message displays. Right now, lines that overflow are truncated, and a visual overflow error displays. A simple way of making sure that the text wraps correctly is to put it inside the expanded widget. Wrap the column widget with the expanded widget. In the build method, the chat message, select the column widget inside the row. For the container, press Alt-Enter in this case to bring up the menu. Start typing expanded and select expanded from the list of possible objects. Alright. Here we go. So, I'm going to go back into chat messenger, chat message. And here's the whole text. Here's the column. Alt Enter. Expand it. There we are. Save that to hot reload. Okay, looks good. The expanded widget allows its child widget, like column, to impose layout constraints, in this case the column's width, to the child widget. Here, it constrains the width of the text widget, which is normally determined by its contents. Okay. Alright. Okay, let's try that. Perfect. Last section. Customize for Android and iOS. To give your app's UI a natural look and feel, you can add a theme and some simple logic to the build method for the friendly chat app class. In this step, you define a platform theme that applies a different set of primary and accent colors. You also customize the send button to use a material design icon button on Android and a Cupertino button in iOS. Add the following code to main after the main method. Alright, after the main method, so this is going to be some high-level variables. Right with the high-level name. Save that. Observations. Default theme data object specifies colors for Android, purple with orange accents. The iOS theme data object specifies colors for iOS, light gray with orange accents. Modify the friendly chat class to vary the theme using the theme property of your app's material app widget. Okay, import the foundation package at the top of the file. Oh yes, that allows you to then to use the target platform. Static getter that gives you, determines which platform you're running on. So we'll do that. We'll just simply pass that in there. Excellent. Now the theme is going to be changed. Okay. And of course that theme will propagate down through the widget tree. So there's chat. So we go here. Like so. That give us a different theme. Okay, where's that default platform? Modify the theme of the app bar widget, the banner at the top of your app's UI. In the build method of the chat screen state, find the following line of code. Oh, I see. Okay. Place the cursor between the two right parentheses, type a comma, and press enter for a new line. Add the following two lines. Elevation. Okay. So for the app bar. App bar. Put a comma. Now its elevation is going to be different depending on the platform. Interesting. So if it's iOS, there's no elevation. If there's Android, there's elevation of 4 logical pixels. Retrieves theme data from the closest state object, which apparently contains the platform. Theme data. Contains a property called platform. Right there. Interesting, okay. Observations. The top level default target property and the conditional operators are used to select the theme. The elevation property defines the Z coordinates, or Z coordinates for you Americans, of the app bar. A Z coordinate value of 4.0 has a defined shadow, and a value of 0 for no shadow for iOS. So this is a top level. Did I provide that there somewhere? I don't see it. One, two. I don't get that. How's that work? All right. Let's run this and see what happens. Definitely a little shadow there. Go back up to the material app and look at this. Where's this come from? Oh, I get it. It comes from the foundation. That's the foundation library. We've got to run this again because, again, main does not fire with the hot reload. So it will reflect these changes. So let's just reload it. Okay, there it is. Let's get ourselves set up here. Continue. We're purple now. Right? If I change this to Android, Android colors. No, that did work. So a hot reload did work. Because this was rebuilt. Build is called again. That build happens to be this widget. I gotta look into that further. So iOS. In the chat states build text composer method, modify the line that assigns the icon button as the child of a container. Change the assignment to be conditional on the platform. For iOS, you use the Cupertino button. Otherwise, stay with the icon button. Okay. All right, let's do that. So we'll change this line to this. Cupertino. Currently it's undefined, so you've got to introduce the Cupertino library. There we are. That'll do it. Save that. I'm going to change it to Android just to show, look, feel of the Cupertino button. It's just a small text file, actually. It's just in text. Send. And it's disabled, as it should be. Perfect. Wrap the top left of the column with the container and give it a light gray border. Or edge. That's what we did up here, I suppose, yeah. This border helps visually distinguish the app bar from the body of the app on iOS. To hide the border on Android, apply the same logic used for the app bar in the previous code sample. In the chat screen state build method, select column that appears after the body. Select Alt Enter. Select the wrap the container after the end of the column. Alright, let's tell you what, let's just before the end of the container, add the code shown that conditionally adds the appropriate button depending on the platform. Well, we did all that. And in the chat screen build, let's just grab the whole thing. Right? Find the build. There it is. Grab the whole thing and update it. There we are. And okay. Guess it needs one more line, did it? Oh, shoot. I had an extra. I know what I did wrong. I just grab this scaffold widget. Wow. Well, let me grab it, alright. I'll just do this. There we go. Now that, depending on the platform, the elevated, decorations will be different. There's a divider, yeah, depending on the platform. There's a little bit more decoration. There's the border, gray border, even iOS, otherwise no. Okay. Congratulations. Well, there we are. What's step 11? You might want to download the sample code to view the sample as a reference or start the code lab at a specific section. Okay. No, we'll leave it at that.